Hello, welcome to a Founders Journal podcast with Kareem and myself, Abhishek. And just introducing myself right away, I'm Abhishek, and I have been in the product and the IT sector, is like software engineer in the product sector for the past 12 to 14 plus years of experience right now, and working to become a founder, developing an agentic AI product tool. And I will let Kareem go next.
Thank you, Abhishek. So my name is Karim, as Abhishek already pointed out, based out of Toronto, Canada. My experience is a bit more of a mix. I come from a banking background where I jumped into product design and then into product management. Now I'm doing anything that's related to growth. Exciting stuff and exciting podcasts. I'll pass it back to you,
Awesome.
Abhishek.
Thank you, Kareem. So the discussion topic for today, what we wanted to start talking about, there's so many applications right now in the market, in the industry, which is all trying to create the applications. Certainly, we know that there is a humongous demand of new applications, like the code writers or the coders, right? But there is a threshold. Everyone is creating an application, but it is just sitting idle, right? And there is people cannot take their idea from app, like they can reach the app stage. But what about going beyond the app stage, right? So app and beyond. That is, I feel there is a humongous gap currently. Why? Because people can build the applications good, but everyone won't understand how to take their app in the next generation, right? What's your thought on that, Karim?
I mean, that's a that's a very interesting point here. I mean, I'm not a software engineer myself, so seeing these tools come out in the market where I can feel like I'm that techie person all of a sudden is exciting. It's amazing. I mean, my background, as pointed out, I've done business, I've done the whole investment side. So if I can code, now I don't really code, but if I can code, and now I get this amazing app being produced, and I feel like I'm all now I'm a software engineer who's built something, but like you pointed out, the problem now is that I don't know what to do with it. Where do I go from here? Like, okay, I've built something exciting. I'm showing it to my friends. I'm showing it to my family. But where do we really go from here? And that's a great point, Abhishek, because yes, we see an explosion of apps getting to the market. But are they getting that right traction? Are they being managed in the right way? I mean, given your experience, Abhishek, you've got tons of experience in product management, and I'm sure you see where things are falling apart when it comes to the app and beyond element, which you perfectly labeled. That is really a big gap that I also see, and absolutely agree with you. No one's really tackling this point right now, and I think it will happen that someone will rise to the occasion as always, but right now it is definitely a gap. And yes, I just don't see it as something that can be ignored, because if you want to build an app, it's not just putting the code, but it's really about the business side of things, and that's really missing. You're
I
absolutely right.
agree. Yeah, I think one additional thing, just food for thought, is there's so much of agentic AI, right? One thing I always feel like we all, like all these applications, irrespective it is Cursor, Lovable, or any other application, and now thanks to Google, we have Firebase Studio as well, who can
Right.
create literally the same thing what Cursor, Lovable have been doing, or the Bolt as well. All of them are technically hitting the same LLM, right? The game, or like the A players are literally doing everything on the prompt side, and then connecting the prompt with the response that they're receiving, and then augmenting the response to get a better result out of the LLM. So that's what the technical agentic AI kind of a route every other organization is going towards, right? And I have seen this many times. Like there is a company named as Devin AI, and what they have provided, they have created a software engineer in its own right that can go ahead, review all the your browser, it can review the code, bug it out, and then provide the finalized version of the solution. Well,
Impressive.
yeah, it is actually the moment anyone starts using it, there's something like, they get, any software engineer will get this as a feeling that, hey, there is someone who has a better kind of a work ethic, I'll say, in the context of not a work ethic, that's the wrong thing to say, but like instead of that, if we say it has a better productivity as in the engine or the machine will keep on working 24/7. A human being cannot work for 24/7.
I
The
hope not.
difference, but the difference is one and only one thing that I feel currently is the emotional quotient, right? So, sorry, if we build a solution right away, the solution is being built from like a product person or the marketing individual or the sales led companies. They will add, like, what, this is the demand from the industry, right? The software person, they will take that and then start developing a code. Well, that's not exactly software engineers do. They implement their emotional quotient as well when they create a software, and because of that they add the flavors of additional functionalities. I'm not sure how tricky it can be to achieve the same in the near future. But just thinking out loud with you, Kareem, on that context, what's your opinion? Like, do you feel that these agentic AIs can actually replace the software engineers in the real time, or do you think it can be like just an assistant augmenting or assisting the human beings?
That's a great question. I mean, whenever we say the word replace, you get people, you know, not feeling comfortable. They're jumping, they're feeling that they're going to be not valuable anymore. So, using the word replace might be a bit of a strong punch out there in the market. But I do like your second point, which is more of an assistance.
Hmm.
Um, I personally, and maybe I'm too simplistic in my way of thinking, I don't think someone can be replaced, as you pointed out. And I really love your idea about the emotional quotient or the emotional IQ. That makes a lot of sense because, yes, the machine can do things faster, if I were to call it a machine, simplistic here, but whether it can understand the full context, not just on the coding level, but on the business or the product value proposition level, that is something else. Now, having said that, I don't, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if LLMs or AI agents can reach the point where they can figure out that context. Yes, that's for sure. But there's still that emotional factor that you pointed out. There's still that human element that is, in my opinion, I might be a bit poetic here, but is irreplaceable. You cannot replace that. But can you be faster? Yes, you can. And that's what AI agents are all about, is that they're that support system to get you from point A to point B in seconds rather than days or weeks. So that's absolutely true. And yes, I do think the market, I mean, if I were to add a little flavor here, I do see the market being overflooded right now with so many tools that help you build or develop through code these apps. You mentioned a couple of them like Firebase. You've got Cursor, tackling or being leveraging Sonnet 3.7 from Claude. um, I don't think they will stop coming out. I mean, we've got Lovable coming out of Europe. These things are happening and they're going to continue being refined and being better. But there is an overcrowdedness in that space. And I don't see any of them really thinking about how to go to that app and beyond element. So that's where the emotional aspects you pointed out, the context, that human irreplaceable element that comes in. And I hope, I hope that makes sense. I'm just trying to really give my opinion. As I mentioned, I'm not from a technical background, but I do think that with every era, I mean, if we look at history in the Industrial Revolution, we got typewriters that came out of that era. People felt that they will be replaced, but they weren't replaced. They were still writers, but they're just faster writers. Instead of using pen and paper, now you can typewrite it. So
Right.
that's what I think it is really all about.
One more, because you're from the investment domain, you started a career like you have worked with one of the bigger organizations, the banks in the world. You have seen this investment trajectory in a very closed box kind of a environment, right? I'm really interested in understanding your viewpoint towards how the investment will change, according to you, in the next couple of months to maybe a decade time frame, thinking that all these idea to app solutions are coming into picture, right? How, or do you think that is there a bubble, which is the AI tool bubble currently going on, like how it was like a dot-com bubble and that
Yeah.
burst, and there was a huge crash in the early 90s, and then now we are in the AI bubble. Like everyone has been talking about that. So throw your 2 cents on that, please.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give my 2 cents here. So If I were to scope a bit the question or the answer that I'll give, I'll focus on whether this is a bubble or not. And it is definitely a bubble. Now, I know it sounds like a wild claim, and I don't have the evidence right now to point it out, but there there's definitely this whole funding that's happening left, right, and center to anything that has the word AI on it, right? Whether it really solving a problem, is it something that is sustainable with respect to the customer acquisition and retention part? That is questionable. But anything I've seen right now, anything that has AI written on it, AI agents, it's getting that check from the VC side and backed by a lot of people, and everyone's excited about it. But it's definitely a bubble because you cannot have all these solutions tackling the same thing, and they're all doing micro, offerings on their app. There has to be something more comprehensive, something more intentional in terms of providing value to the customer. So, in my opinion, if I were to think about it, it is going to be a bubble for a while. The question isn't really whether it's a bubble or not, or it's more about how long will this last as a bubble, and when
Mm.
will it really get, should I say, burst? It sounds a bit hurtful to say that, but let's just think about it, about how many of these products will be sustainable going forward or will survive that bubble after. So my thought process is it's not whether it's a bubble or not, but it's really about when will it be identified as a bubble. Let's just put it that way.
Agreed, agreed. No, 100%, and that you're making a really valid point. As in, like, any organization who has an AI kind of extension, they are being funded left, right, center. One thing I have like seen, this is my personal opinion, of course, and as per my research, that the venture capitalist firms who invest in Series A and the Series B, they have a totally different risk tolerance. However, the people who are investing on the seed investment, they are like having a totally different risk tolerance. However, recently, because it is easy to develop a product, and then every individual is having something as their own charm towards a go-to-market strategy, and they bring people on their application, right? So because of this one thing, people have tend to only bootstrap their firm to a certain level and then maybe raise a seed investment or something, and then they're done. Like, just for an example, I will take I think it is Cursor or Lovable, one of these organizations where they bootstrapped to develop the product, and now they're like 100 million ARR. It is Cursor, I believe. With 100 million ARR, do I don't think that that specific team needs additional funding. Well, I may be wrong, but if I would be a CEO or a founder or like kind of a decision maker, what I will try to do is like I will put my most of my efforts to make sure my team is lean and utilize AI agents quite more to go app and beyond, right? Like, so why I say app and beyond, because you can today, with the use of, let's say, $100 to $200, technically speaking, you can leverage the best of the best AI models,
Right.
and then create your application. So that is the MVP stage. What we do for the pre-seed is always go ahead and just create the MVP, and that is the pre-seed round, right? That's anyone go for. The seed round is where you are having a couple of customers on your plate, but the seed round is where you want to establish this go-to market, like the customer acquisition strategy, and then have a kind of a scalable solution that you have already built. So now, and that will be like in the product domain, I will say that is a phase two. Phase one is MVP, and the phase two is MVP and beyond, right? So the individual who has already created MVP using these solutions like, idea to app, now they are on the pre-seed plus stage. But if they have a better strategy, they can easily go to the seed stage. Maybe not even getting, like, maybe don't even need so much of investment. So there are a couple of organizations, I don't want to take any names, but then I have been following for a few folks on LinkedIn, and they are building 30 million ARR business with just three founders, right? So, and just think in the direction, like, what they have achieved is humongous, and they are I saw somewhere, and I may be wrong, that they recently got $15 million of seed investment, I believe, from Andreessen Horowitz. So, well, technically, those are like the big funds who are taking bet on the companies, which is developing a solution with a minimal founders, making their team, keeping their team very lean, but having the maximum value, right? In my mind, what I think, like the next few years, or maybe not years, like maybe months or like years, maybe there will be influx of so many new organizations who are trying to solve problems of like the vertical problems, like maybe sales, like software, like if you can see, there are a few organizations. One of them that I can think of is Swan, which is solving for AI SDR, which is artificial intelligence software. Sorry, it's DR, right? So they're AISDR. So that's the company that I'm thinking of. Then the second one is Cursor, Lovable. They all are also doing the same thing for the vertically. They are trying to be a software engineer, right? So in the same context, there if we happen to bring an organization which is product specific, right? So but I saw that there is a company named as Opla who is also doing that, of course. Interesting stuff. And if there's company comes in there and that vertical starts becoming and getting there, I feel that there will be so many new solutions on the same vertical in the long term coming along, solving the same kind of a problem, and investors may have to kind of think thrice before even investing in any organization. So now the whole market is where it was like investor driven, where it's like or last year's couple of last decade, what happened, like you have an idea, you get few customers, you went to the seed investment round, you raise the fund, then series A, series B, series C, series D, maybe go to IP or maybe get acquired, whatever, people get their funding out of it, right? Like now with the seed strapping, what founders have achieved is utilize artificial intelligence. You create your application, then take your application to the next level, maybe raise a seed investment, and then you achieve $4 to $5 million of ARR, taking the valuation from maybe like 25 or $50 million ish, where you have only raised a couple of $1 million in the fund, maybe a seed fund, and that's all you need to do if you want to be in
Right.
that level. Like, so what's your thought on that aspect?
I mean, these are a lot of great points, Abhishek. You've touched on a lot of solid points that's happening right now in the market. So let's go or think about a few years back. So VCs used to think about, or rather, these pre-seed or seed investments or companies used to think about growth at all costs. They used to, I think not the acronym, but the abbreviation used to be like GAC. You always see it all over the place. So it really didn't matter the cost. It just mattered that they needed to get as much funding as possible to just grow at any cost, right? I don't think that's the story anymore, and I've seen this echoed and in different channels and different talks all over the place. Is that it's not anymore about just money being dumped for no reason. Now, having said that, there is still money flowing. It's just more targeted, more refined. So maybe I can summarize some of the thought process here that you've already shared really well. Is that it's about speed, it's about you know efficiency, and it's about value. So if I were to think about value, and we're thinking about the next gen technology, that's the AI agents and how to do things better and more impactful. And when we were talking about speed, which you've mentioned it a couple of times, and really well thought about it, is how to get to that time to value. So if we think about it in terms of product management, you always want to get the user into the app and get them quickly to that value proposition that you have. Let's think about it the same way when it comes to products being sold to investors, right? You want to make
Right.
sure that they see that product market fit as fast as possible. And with AI agents and all that technology right now, you know, this is really helping these small companies. And when I say small, I don't necessarily mean that they're tiny. It just means that the headcount is small, but they can do as massive power as the bigger organization enterprise in less time. So that's the elements of speed and efficiency. And now the value, as I already mentioned, that how do you bring that impact and leveraging the next gen technology all over the place. So I really think you've nailed it when you mentioned a lot of great points. Really, the investors are looking for people who can be lean, as you pointed out. Uh, they're not concerned anymore about, okay, how many people do you have? How many are you going to be hiring? But it's about how efficient and how impactful you are right now.
Right.
uh, what kind of what kind of technology are you employing, that kind of stuff. Now I don't think there's a lack of money in the market. I definitely don't think that's the case. It's just that it's more targeted and really more geared towards this next wave of thinking rather than just we need to scale means I need to hire 20 more, I don't know, sales or SDRs, as you pointed out. No, it's about how can we be more efficient and get more ARR with the same headcount that we have. So it's pretty
Right.
impressive. It's a pretty impressive era. You got three people, like I said, reaching what, 30 million ARR? That's crazy.
I'm like really curious, like what do we think are going to be the next generation of tools or the SaaS solutions that the founders will be very much interested in building, right? So why I say so, why I'm bringing this as a topic because I've seen, like, as we have already discussed and agree, agreed that the SDR route, where like there's lots of solutions already coming in. There are certainly coders who are also coming in the market, and people are also trying to get in the marketing domain as well, like AI marketing agent and stuff, AI product agent and stuff. What do you think will be other than these as a next generation tools coming along? Like what exactly people will be building?
So if you're thinking about like what kind of domains or industries that are not being tackled right now, um, okay, let's think about it this way. So we know or we see already in the market that all these next gen apps or tools are, are reaching out or being leveraged by their own domain. So if you've mentioned Cursor, Lovable, it's being meant, you know, crazy leveraged by software developers, engineers who are working in tech already. So it's not like they're going outside of that circle or domain, right? But maybe some other domains that I've noticed that are really lacking behind is healthcare, for example. I haven't, it's crazy, but I've met a couple of founders, I met a couple of companies, and they don't even know what AI is. That's how crazy it is. And these companies are big. Like they have a lot of customers. They've got a lot of demand in their market, um, but they're still rules driven. There's no dynamic nature to whatever algorithm that they've built behind the scenes. Their maximum when it comes to providing an AI capability is not that they're turning the solution around to become AI native. It's more like an add-on, and we're
Yeah.
talking about just notes and transcripts. That's the that's the maximum value proposition they have there. So if you're asking me about where can AI or AI agents it can go in so many other domains and industries that we don't naturally and normally think about, but there's so many right now lacking. So supply chain management, for example, how to optimize, the routes or how many containers you put on the ships and all of that stuff. There's so much
Yeah.
out there that can be optimized. Healthcare is huge. When we say healthcare, it's not just one domain. They've got, mental health care, you've got health technology that's more focused on, delivering virtual care. Um, I find,
I think
funny enough, I find doctors are might be replaceable soon,
here's something like doctors, and again, like the emotional quotient is very important because the doctors are not just providing you the medicines, right?
True,
They're trying to
100%.
identify the problem using, of course, the reports as a data, right? And then they are as like sometimes they have to make the assumption, but sometimes with the reports, it is very clear what is the problem, and then just run the medicine out of it. Well, certainly an AI assistance can assist doctors make their decision faster, not better,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
One thing I certainly think a market or a domain can do way better with AI is law, right? So lawyers or
Mm,
advocates, right? Especially in the corporate world, right? So in the corporate world, what we do is like like the two organizations were trying to do business in between each other. Like that is a domain where we know there are certain types of clause, certain types of like things has to happen, right? So AI can definitely come together right there and assist these two organizations by being two different types of AI agents having their own bylaws and stuff being like being utilized and create a some kind of a synergy where these two agents are making the connection in between each other, right? There's something like that in my mind can definitely a humongous opportunity of the next wave of tools coming in picture.
I'm seeing science fiction happening already. You're getting a council talk to another council, and both councils are artificial. But
Exactly.
it can happen, and it can replace a lot of companies, or at least not replace. Let's stop. I guess I should stop using the word replace. It's more like make things more efficient.
Right. Yeah. 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 Oh,
Yeah.
great. And that is humongous. Like opportunity is there. So, like this is almost like 25 minutes of our call. Like, I want to understand between you and me, if we have to build a solution, what we should do to start taking the idea and building a business out of it.
It's a really great question. So you're thinking about like, how do you really go after you build an app? So now you have a working product, but you've got no customers. So how do you go into the whole, how do you fix the business
Exactly.
side of things here? Um,
Right.
I always think about it, well, you know, there are so many things, but one thing that always pops in my head is how do you get as quickly as possible to that product market fit? Getting that
Mm-hmm.
first customer, but actually it's getting the first bunch of customers coming to your product, using it and sticking with it. So it's not just a matter of they try it for a day or two and they leave. So that whole engagement retention and around that is the idea of iteration. How do you operationalize that whole app and beyond, as you pointed out? So how do you operationalize the aspects of growth within that built or that viable product or minimum viable product that you built? So
Mm-hmm.
something like a business or something that can enable that business is something that operationalizes product management, essentially. I mean, that's what product management is all about is, okay, we have software engineers who've built something. Now we need to make sure that this thing is succeeding or will succeed. So we need to speak to the customers. We need to gather feedback. We need to gather evidence. We need to figure out which evidence really matters versus others that is considered as noise, and how to put all of that together. How do we get the insights? How do we take the insights and action on it? Put it on a roadmap, for example, experiment, engage with existing customers and keep them retained. So all of that full product lifecycle management is tough. It's huge. It's not something that that you do with a click of a button. Having done a bit of product management myself, um, I've leveraged so many tools. To name a few, I've used product board, a product plan. I used to whiteboard on Miro. I kind of stopped because now I feel like there's so many tools. I used to put my notes on Notion and get my user insights feedback there and get some an analysis done manually, actually. Or you can use something like Dovetail, which helps you with user research consolidation. And then you come to Jira, our famous and good old Jira that, you put your backlog there and you start to manage and you put the roadmaps and all that stuff. Just saying all of the stuff already got me exhausted. It's a lot of stuff. And it's a lot of different tech stack that you're trying to put it all together. And then you've got, of course, the analytics tool like Pando or Mixpanel or Amplitude or whichever other ones out there in the market right now. But having all of that in a way that is similar to what these code editors have done, like Cursor or Lovable, would be amazing. Something that can really not just automate, but really rethink how we do product management. I think that's the key. And I'll
I
leave it
see.
at that. It's about really rethinking rather than just layering on technology and that's it. It's just how to be better and more efficient given the next or the current wave that we're experiencing right now. It's not just about version 2.0, but it's just that I think about it as more of a revolution in a way of thinking. So
Hmm. I think the next wave of tools that is certainly going to come together are vibe thinking, right?
yeah,
Or vibe productizing, to be honest. I always incline towards products, because that the products are the actual businesses of the future, right? Using the idea to app, kind of like these are the multiple solutions, but all of these solutions are the originator of next generation of products. And the next generation of products, because they have been built through the vibe coding, those tools also need vibe thinking or vibe strategy,
You're
productizing,
absolutely
stuff
right.
like that. And the next set of tools must come in the same direction so that it can assist people to take their idea and make it actually something beneficial or profitable from them, right? And every person has different kind of a thought process. So like in between you and me, I know that you are amazing with the GTM strategy, product growth and stuff, right? You may not be the best person for designing the architecture of a code, right? And even like going on and just doing a very core coding and all those things, right? With me, I feel I'm very much comfortable in the product domain. I am very focused in that zone, and I'm a coder, so I will code, like do all those stuff. But I cannot be the marketing individual. I don't know how to like surface the data or like the communication in front of others that can easily market the product that I've built. So just taking these as a use cases, I'll say like if there is a solution comes into existence and that can solve the problem for you and for me, as in combined, that is what the solution will be of the future, and that is the next wave of multiple tools or the SaaS tools that is supposed to be in my mind coming in the future. You know.
These are really great points. I love them.
We are almost like beyond 30 minutes, so I will stop it here. And thanks everyone for supporting the podcast that we are building. uh, there's multiple new topics that we will be bringing every week, and bringing folks as well on the call to talk about it, the next generation of the wave of tools. So that is what it is. And welcome once again on the podcast of Founders Journal to go through the journey that we are all on the same time. So thank you everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Bye.
Bye.